start with so many questions on a band with such a long history. You've got a new album out.
Yeah.
Back from Hell.
Back from Hell.
How would you describe it? What's different to Theatre of the Damned?
Theatre of the Damned, I think, had a lot of American ideas in it because the guitar player, Guy, he studied at the Guitar Institute in Los Angeles, so he had a lot of American type techniques like Stevie Vai and people like that, which was great. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but predominantly Blitzkrieg are a British metal band, and I wouldn't want to sort of do American style metal all of the time. That's not what we're about. So with Back from Hell, we've kind of we've gone back to the roots, if you like, and we've tried to get as much harmony guitar, which is what we initially set out to do with the guitar players in the original band. So it's kind of it's a return to what I would probably class as classic Blitzkrieg, from say A Time of Changes or Unholy Trinity, from that kind of era. And that's kind of where we wanted to go with it, but with also a slight up-to-date effect on it as well. And I think we got there. That's up to people like yourself to say whether we did or we didn't. But I kind of think that we got the balance about right.
Yeah, you're continuing some traditions. For example, Back from Hell has got a title song about Jack the Ripper again, like Unholy Trinity did.
Indeed.
And the funny thing is, the other day I read an article in news that somebody did a DNA analysis and found that Jack the Ripper actually was a Polish immigrant. So that doesn't spoil your theory, though. No,
not at all. I've read all of that. That's not a new theory. You know, I mean, when I wrote the original song, Unholy Trinity, I spent 5 years of my life studying it and getting everything that I could get my hands on to read. And I even went to Scotland Yard and I got to see the files, the actual files. And you know, I had a look at this material. I couldn't remove it. I wasn't allowed to take it out of the place, obviously. The interesting thing was, though, when sort of 1988 came around and it was the 100 years blanket had been removed, because you're not allowed to open a file really technically until 100 years has gone by. It had a royal seal on it, although they technically had already opened it for journalists to look in, and I was fortunate to get in and see it as well before the 100 years were up. But when they actually went in and opened the file in August 1988, there were several pieces of really strong evidence that had been removed before it had been made public, and the pieces of evidence that were removed were the pieces that I based Unholy Trinity on. But I have absolutely no doubt in my mind whatsoever that what the person that I named in Unholy Trinity it was actually Jack the Ripper. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. I've read many theories since then, just to sort of keep abreast of it and keep you know, because I'm interested in that, and I haven't seen any evidence that changes my mind. Not even this new piece, because a chap called Kaminsky, I've read the evidence. He wasn't Jack the Ripper. He wasn't even in London actually when the first murder was committed. So it kind of rules him out.
All right, this one is called Buried Alive. Yeah!
also on the new album you've got a song called V, based on the movie V for Vendetta, which is the first time. But in a way I was thinking it has something to do with previous stuff, and so far, like the songs you did about the prisoner, it's also based on the subject of freedom and having control over your destiny. There's a kind of connection in the theme.
I never really thought about it that way, and I guess you're probably right. Subconsciously I may be thinking that. But it really, I see something and it impresses me, so I tend to go and write a song about it. And you know, Alan had said to me, you really got to see this movie, V for Vendetta. And to be honest, I was aware that there was like a comic, and I'd never read the comic, and to be honest, I had no interest in it whatsoever. And he said, you got to see this movie. This movie's really cool. It's right up your street. It's exactly the kind of thing that you like. So I said, all right, then go on. So I sat and watched it with him, and I was blown away. I just thought, this is a great idea. The idea that someone can make that much difference just by doing absolutely nothing. Because usually, when you have this kind of protest outside of the Houses of Parliament or wherever it might be, you know, violence becomes the norm, and then of course the police have to employ a certain amount of violence, and the whole thing just falls apart. But in the movie, there's thousands of them just standing outside of the Houses of Parliament with the masks on, just doing absolutely nothing. And that really appealed to me, because they're not being violent, they're not making a whole lot of noise, but everyone knew why they were there, because of the publicity that they got from it. And I kind of felt that is a great thing. It's a great subject matter to write a song around. So I kind of went with that. And usually when we do that song, I usually wear the mask. It wasn't possible to bring it, you know, with the hat, the cape, and everything else on the tour. More's the pity. I would have loved to have done that. But
this song, Complicated Issue, when I first listened to that, I was really surprised, because this is something totally new for Blitzkrieg musically. How did this idea come along?
It's a song that Bill, the bass player, had written with his wife Emma. And he brought the song along to Blitzkrieg and said, you know, do you think we can use this on Blitzkrieg? It's kind of, you know, it's right for Blitzkrieg. And I listened to it and I thought, yeah, that's not a bad song. I didn't have anything to do with writing it at all. Bill brought it along, and it was great. So we went for that. And I said to Bill, well, would Emma be interested in singing on it as well? And at first she was, oh no, I'm not sure about that. But she did. Eventually she agreed to it, and we did the song together as a duet, and I think it works really well. The idea was to write a song in the style of Priest, using little bits from Priest songs and putting them in, like the drum break, the dan, 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 and things like that. And also little riffs, the way the Priests weave their riffs together. We did that. We studied a lot of Judas Priest stuff. We did that. I mean, it's not difficult because we're huge Priest fans anyway. And the idea, the guys said, well, what are you going to write about? And at first I said, I have not a clue. And then I had the idea of stringing all of the song titles together and trying to put it so that it makes sense.
Did it come quickly to you, or did it take a long time?
I sat with a piece of paper for about an hour and a half and got absolutely nowhere whatsoever. And then I got an idea, and then the rest of it took me about 5 minutes.
Clicked.
It clicked. And once I started writing, you know, it just kind of went that way. And it is stringing. I already had written down every Priest title, so I was looking for ones that if you put that with that, it makes sense. You know, so like Before the Dawn, the Ripper is Living Bad Dreams. As a sentence, it makes perfect sense. But it's through there's 3 song titles in there. So that's how I did it. I strung it all together, and I thought to myself, the only way that this could possibly get better is to have Mr. Halford himself come along and sing. And that was never going to happen. So,
who was that? Who's singing?
Bill is also in a Judas Priest tribute band called Judas Beast.
Oh, was their
and
singer?
Their singer, Martin McManus, really sounds like Rob Halford. So I said to him, look, Martin, do you want to do this? And he said, well, how do you want me to sing? I said, well, I want you to sing in Rob Halford's voice. I want you to, And he said, okay, I'll do the Painkiller voice. So I said, that's brilliant. and he did, and it was just fantastic. It was just great. And as you said, we had the mix of Priest and Blitzkrieg together, which worked way better than I ever thought it would. And it's becoming a kind of a favourite with the Blitzkrieg fans as well. It's great. And just to top it off, in rehearsal, we started messing around with the Hellion and discovered that it went straight into Call for the Priest perfectly. So that's the reason for that as well.
You are the new drummer of Blitzkrieg. You're now with the band for about 2 years.
Yes.
Yes, but obviously you are an experienced drummer, so where have you been playing before?
I've played with many bands from the northeast of England. Basically started, I played with a band for 8 years called The Phones, and I teach drums as well, whether it's for a school, high school, or people with special needs, or one-to-one tuition. I do that as well. I do a lot of session work as well. So I've got a good varied background.
And Bill, how about you? You are also with Blitzkrieg for about 2 years now.
Yes,
yeah?
joined the same time as Mick, yeah. We joined together.
Together? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Have you been playing together before?
No. We know each other, been on the circuit in the northeast and all that, and tribute bands. I played in a Judas Priest tribute band called Judas Beast, who's done the rounds, and a Metallica tribute band, Downstink. And I've got my own band called Druggernaut, who we've just played Hammerfest Festival and Hard Rock Hell.
It's in Wales, isn't it?
In Wales, yeah.
Yeah. We're playing that, I think.
So all's good.
What was the best show that you've played with Blitzkrieg so far?
Oh, there's been many.
Turret Open Air
Turek was
last
good.
year.
Turek Open Air in Essen.
Really good, yeah.
Downtown Essen was good, as was the after show party.
Yeah.
which we organised ourselves.
Didn't get back till the next day.
You don't get into details, yeah?
No details, no.
Right.
It's enough of that.
And Blitzkrieg has a lot of plans for next year, especially going to South America for the first time. So
Hopefully.
you're looking forward to that?
Looking forward to
Yeah,
that. Chile should be interesting. Yeah.
We've definitely got Santiago and Chile booked, so I think we're
We're
looking
waiting
forward
for
to
the others to be confirmed.
Yeah.
I think Brazil and Argentina has been mentioned.
There's a promoter in the USA who's got some dates in San Francisco, Chicago, New York, possibly in contacts in Canada as well. So it's all looking good. It's all looking good. Next year's looking particularly good because I think there's some bigger
Headbangers
stages.
open air as well. We're confirmed
Yeah.
for that.
It's a big fest, Brofest. We're headlining Brofest, which is it's a very early stages new wave of British heavy metal festival, you know, in Newcastle.
We played that this year. We played Brofest this year. It was really good.
Got the headlining slot this year, so it's
Alan, you are the new guitarist in the band and you are in Blitzkrieg for 2 years now.
Yeah.
What was the first time you realized you could become a band member?
Well, basically, I went along to fill in on guitar because I pretty much already knew all the Blitzkrieg songs, just so they could audition Mick and Bill. And Ken and my dad actually turned around and said, "Well, do you want the job?" Because it sounded good, you know. So I thought, yeah, I'll take that. So I was going to actually audition, but we never got to that stage. so that was good.
Yeah. The other day I read on the internet about Blitzkrieg, and there was a list of all the ex-members of Blitzkrieg. I don't know if it's complete, but it listed 34 people.
Oh.
So there's so much coming and going in Blitzkrieg. How did you manage to become the longest-serving member of the band?
Just kept my head down and be quiet. No, seriously, I don't know. It only dawned on me after the last lineup, like, changed when Phil went, because Phil was the only member from the last lineup for the Brothers.
Yeah.
When he left, it was last year on tour, and I was like, I've just realised I'm the longest serving member of Blitzkrieg behind Brian. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's a nice statement for me, because I only joined the band in 2002. So from that moment, it is a nice feeling, you know, being connected to a band with such a history, you know, and you know, it is. And especially that the band is from the northeast, where obviously where we're all from, you know. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to join a band from London or Manchester. They're actually in my hometown area, you know. Yeah.
Your guitar yesterday. There was a black guitar with some horns and some cross inlays, just similar to Tony Iommi's, but he's playing a Gibson and you don't. So what kind of guitar?
It's actually a Schecter Sinister Gate Special, and I have it in black and I also have it in white because I saw the Schecter Avenger and I loved the body. I thought that was amazing, and then I saw the Sinister Gates out of Avenged Sevenfold. He uses them. And I like the headstock on his, but I wasn't too keen on the pinstripes. Yeah. So then when they brought these ones out, I thought, oh, I love that. It looks good. So that's what they are.
Perfect match.
Yeah. They look a bit aggressive, but they're actually quite nice.
Right.
Not too big to get on planes either.
Now I have to ask about your favorite guitar as well, or you will be envious.
Right.
So,
my favorite guitar actually is a Mythos at the moment. But I think you've seen me use it. I've got a Kramer Pacer, 1984, and it's like when, you know, everyone was jumping on the Kramer Pacers when Eddie Van Halen was using them in the mid-80s, and I don't bring it away anymore now. I'm using a Schecter as my main guitar, and I've brought my Gibson Les Paul standard with this as my backbeat guitar, because I don't really like using it because it's old now and I don't want it to. It's going to happen, so I tend to stick with the Schecter more than the Gibson.
The older they get, the more precious they are.
They are. In the Kramer, you know, the Kramer's like half the price is of what a Gibson cost. But the Kramer is just, it's my own guitar. You know, like it's what you're always attached to. You know, like.
And you don't take it on tour then?
Not now. I used to bring it. Not now.
I've got one like that as well. Got a 1986 Fernandez Flying V. It's actually 2 months older than I am, and that doesn't leave the house.
Flying V is always looking good on stage.
Yeah. Oh, look.
Dark City! Dark City!
it came about. It was really hard for me as a lyricist to do, because I was writing the Satan album simultaneously. So I was spending time with Satan, writing the Satan album, then Blitzkrieg, and I had to keep the two things totally different because the bands are just totally different. And it was hard, but you know, I think we got there with it. And I mean, not only did we write them simultaneously, we recorded them simultaneously in the same recording studio as well, using the same sounding engineer. So it could have gone horribly wrong, and it could have sounded, you know, Blitzkrieg could have sounded a bit like Satan, and Satan could have sounded a bit like Blitzkrieg. It didn't work out that way. But the actual album itself, I mean, all of the songs on there, they all came about over a period of time. I'd been working on some ideas for some lyrics and stuff, so I'd kind of wanted, there's certain ideas that I wanted to do. Sahara itself, that song is basically, that's about Stargate, the movie, and it's an idea that we actually had when we did Theatre of the Damned, but it wasn't used musically. I didn't write the lyrics until much later. It is a personal album, and from different ideas, from different things. The title track, again, it just kind of purports the idea that what would happen if Jack the Ripper came back now.
Yeah.
And that is what that song is about, and it kind of delivers that in a certain way. And it's, you know, it's a great thing. And there was slight little bits of Alice crept in there, because Alice is a massive influence on me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I'm not insane. Nocturnal Vision.
Absolutely. You know, Nocturnal Vision is about Alice. I mean, you know, my main influence as I grew up. The Beatles. I saw the Beatles and I thought, that is what I want to do. And then I saw Mark Bolan in T-Rex, and I thought, this guy writes amazing lyrics. He writes stories, which is a bit different to other people. So that's what kind of influenced me for that. And Alice Cooper for putting on a show. I mean, the thing is as well, you know, at the start of the year, someone in Newcastle asked me. They were putting on a show for Alice to Alice Cooper, and they asked me would I play Alice Cooper, and I said, yeah, of course. So I'm doing that at the moment. I'm rehearsing with that. Alan's playing guitar, and what we're doing is we're doing like the full Cooper show from the Theatre of Death tour. So 4 songs in, I get put into the guillotine. Halfway through, I get put on the gibbet and they hang me. At the end, they put me in an Iron Maiden with spikes and put swords through it.
I hope you're very professional effects man, yeah.
Well, it's either going to be a brilliant one-off, or it's going to be a great show. We're doing the first one at a theatre in Newcastle, well, South Shields actually, called the Customs House. Quite a big theatre, because it has to be to get the full stage show in. We're doing the first one for charity. We're trying to raise some money for a children's charity that was set up by a teenager in Newcastle that was dying of cancer. And rather than just sort of accept it and go, yep, okay, I've got 6 months left to live, I'm just going to sort of lie here and vegetate. He didn't do that. He went out and he actually ran, ran through the streets, collecting money for it, raising its profile. And when he eventually did die, he'd raised an awful lot of money for that particular charity. So that's what we're doing it for. We're doing it for that charity. Once we've done that first show, then we may take it out on the road. I'm not sure, but we'll have to see. But it is a great honour to play ours. A great honour. And to sing like him as well. It's actually, it's so nice to be able to do a gig without having to scream and stuff. Just sound like Alice Cooper, which is great.
this tour, you're also selling an album which is a compilation of your earliest demo stuff from 1981.
Yes.
And apart from Highway Star, which I already knew, you have got another purple cover on there, Child in Time.
It's awful.
And some very early versions of Inferno, Armageddon, and so on.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts when you listen to that again after all these years?
It's great, you know, because Ian, who was one of the original guitar players, he died a few years ago, and we've lost him now, so it's a shame. But it's kind of a tribute to him because Ian and Jim were the two mainstays of Blitzkrieg originally. And what they actually set up, because Ian was a huge Priest fan, Jim was a huge Zeppelin and Purple fan. And when you put the two of them together, you've got what is Blitzkrieg. That's what created the Blitzkrieg sound in the first place, by mixing Deep Purple and Zeppelin with a bit of Priest. And that's what created it. And we have, there's literally thousands of tapes, because we recorded every rehearsal and every gig. So there could be thousands of volumes of the stuff, but hopefully not, because some of them aren't that great. You have off nights and stuff, so you know. But I haven't really listened to it in any great detail. I do, from memory, I do remember that Highway Star and that particular version of Child in Time were actually awful.
I mean, when you're covering Deep Purple with Blitzkrieg, you have to keep to these short single versions, because you can't do the extended stuff. You don't have a keyboard player.
That's right.
And
that's
it
right.
wouldn't work.
Well, the thing was, how we did it was Ian just played all of the guitar, like the guitar parts where the keyboards would be, and played a solo, and it worked for us, you know. And Jim was always keen to show his ability off, because he's an amazing guitar player. He still is. His idea was to play Highway Star twice as fast as Purple ever did, just to prove that we could. And we did, and to his credit, he did an amazing job on the solo, amazing job. But, you know, I'm hoping next year, with it, I mean, it's as I'm sure that you're aware, it's the 30th anniversary of the time it changes. And my idea is to do a kind of a Beatles thing. You know, when the Beatles got together, and they got an old John Lennon song, and they took it into the studio and they pieced it together, and it became Free as a Bird. Well, I've been speaking to Ian's mum, and she has some recordings of Ian playing guitar riffs. And my idea is to take them into the studio with as close as possible to the original lineup of Blitzkrieg, and recreate a Blitzkrieg song that was written back in 1980. And that is my idea for the new album, that we're going to do that. I've already spoken to Jim. Jim's agreed to do it. Steve Abbey, the original drummer, doesn't want to do it. He's now a police officer in Nottingham, and he doesn't want to be involved in playing music anymore. Mick Moore, the bass player, has agreed to do it, and I've asked Ken to be the other guitar player, because he is the longest serving Blitzkrieg member now. So for him to play in that lineup of Blitzkrieg is probably about right. And hopefully that will happen. I'm hoping that it does, because unlike we've already lost Ian, and I want to do this before we lose anybody else. We're not getting any younger, you know.
Yeah, life is tough.
Life is tough, yeah, exactly.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, man.